right, time to take a deep dive into something I know you've been wanting to unpack. Inflammation. You sent over a ton of research on this. Clearly a topic you're ready to explore, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot here for sure. It seems like you're really interested in those, everyday habits, the ones that can sneakily contribute to inflammation.
Exactly. It's kind of wild how those small choices can impact your health.
Yeah.
And, not just about food.
Right, right. It's way more than that. We're talking a whole range of lifestyle factors. It can get pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, it really can. It's a bit much, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's why you're here, though, right? Break it all down.
That's what we're here for, to help you make sense of it all.
Okay, awesome. So, where do we even begin? What's at the core of this inflammation issue?
Well, a lot of the research you sent over points to two big things driving inflammation. One, the integrity of your gut barrier,
Okay,
and two, the amount of visceral fat you're carrying around.
gotcha. Okay, so gut barrier integrity. Can you explain that one a bit more? It sounds a little technical.
Yeah, for sure. So imagine your gut. Think of it like a net, this really tightly woven net, right? It's designed to keep things in and out. Lets the good stuff, the nutrients, pass into your bloodstream.
Okay.
But it also stops the bad stuff, like toxins and bacteria, from leaking out.
So if that net gets holes, things get messy.
Precisely. When your gut barrier is compromised, well, harmful substances escape. And when they do, that triggers an inflammatory response throughout your body.
Oh, wow. Okay, and what about visceral fat? I know that's the fat around our organs, right?
Mhm.
Is that also inflammatory?
Picture this visceral fat. It's like a low-burning fire
Yep.
inside you, constantly releasing these inflammatory chemicals into your system.
Oh, wow.
And the more visceral fat you have, well, the bigger the fire, the more widespread the inflammation.
Okay, that's a powerful image. So healthy gut strong net.
Right.
And we want to keep that internal fire under control. But why is inflammation such a big deal in the first place?
Well, chronic inflammation has been linked to, a ton of health issues, everything from fatigue and brain fog to difficulty sleeping. And then there are the more serious concerns.
Yeah.
Heart disease, autoimmune disorders, even certain types of cancer.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely motivating me to pay attention.
Yeah,
So tackling some of these habits, it sounds like we can actually make a big difference.
absolutely. And a lot of these habits are surprisingly common. You'd be surprised how many people are unknowingly fanning those flames of inflammation every single day.
All right, let's get to the heart of it then. What are some of those top inflammatory culprits we need to be aware of, especially as we head into 2024?
Well, based on all the research you sent, it seems like you're particularly interested in diet and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And for good reason, those are areas where we have a lot of control, right?
Exactly. So what should we be watching out for?
Let's start with something most people don't even think about.
Okay.
The type of oils they're using.
Okay, interesting.
Are you still cooking with those common seed oils?
I have to admit I am. What's the problem with those?
They're highly prone to oxidation, especially when you expose them to heat, light, or air. Basically, they go rancid really easily.
So they go bad quickly.
And when they do, they become incredibly inflammatory. Think of it like rust forming on metal. Those oxidized fats, they cause damage at a cellular level, leading to inflammation throughout your body.
Yikes. Okay. No more seed oils. What are some better options then?
Oh, there are tons of healthier alternatives. Tallow, butter, avocado oil, and coconut oil. They're all much more stable, way less likely to oxidize.
Great. I'll make the switch. Okay, what else is on that list of inflammatory culprits?
Okay, what else is on that list of inflammatory culprits?
Okay, this one might surprise you. Emulsifiers. They're hiding in so many processed foods.
Emulsifiers? I'm not even sure I know what those are.
They're basically chemicals, and they help blend ingredients that don't naturally mix, like oil and water.
They create that smooth texture in things like salad dressings, ice cream, tons of packaged foods.
Okay, so they're supposed to be a good thing, right? What's the problem?
Well, the research suggests that a lot of common emulsifiers, they can actually disrupt your gut barrier, making those holes in the net we were talking about even bigger.
Oh, no. So they're contributing to that leaky gut issue.
Exactly. One study you sent even found that 18 out of 20 emulsifiers they tested actually damaged the gut lining.
Wow. That's scary. It seems like emulsifiers are in everything these days. What can we do to avoid them?
It can be tricky, but reading labels carefully is key. There's one emulsifier, lecithin, that appears to be a safer option. But overall, the less processed food you eat, the better.
Okay, good advice. All right, what's the next inflammatory habit we should be aware of?
Believe it or not, the type of light you're exposed to can make a big
With
difference.
light, really?
Think about it. We're surrounded by artificial blue light all day long, right?
Yeah.
Screens, LEDs, fluorescent bulbs. And this type of light can actually suppress melatonin production,
Hmm.
disrupt your circadian rhythm,
Okay.
and that contributes to inflammation.
So we're talking messing with our sleep cycle and our hormones?
Exactly. And when those things are out of whack, inflammation often follows. On the flip side, getting enough natural sunlight, especially in the morning, can actually reduce inflammation.
So put down the phone and get outside more. Got it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we can do about this light situation?
Well, some people are finding benefits from red light therapy.
Oh, yeah.
It uses specific wavelength of light to reduce inflammation and promote healing.
I've heard about that. Is it just a fad, or is there real science behind it?
There's a growing body of research supporting its benefits. It's even being used by professional athletes
Oh, wow.
and NASA
Really?
to help with recovery and pain management.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, moving on. Let's talk about another common habit that can be surprisingly inflammatory: alcohol.
Yeah, this is one where the science is becoming, increasingly clear. Even moderate alcohol consumption can contribute to inflammation.
Wait, so even that, like, healthy glass of red wine with dinner is a no-go?
Unfortunately, the research is showing a direct link between alcohol intake and elevated levels of C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation.
So no amount of alcohol is truly beneficial.
That's what the latest research is suggesting.
Okay. That's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah.
But I guess it's worth it for better health. What about other things we might be consuming that could be adding to inflammation?
MSG is another one to watch out for.
MSG. Isn't that just a flavor enhancer? I thought it was harmless.
While it can make food taste more appealing,
Yeah.
there's growing evidence that MSG can actually make your body fat more inflammatory.
Wait, really? So it's not just about MSG being inflammatory on its own. It's actually making the fat we already have even more inflammatory.
That seems to be the case based on recent studies.
Wow, I had no idea. So less MSG, got it. What about dairy? That's a big one that people are always debating.
Yeah. Well, the research you sent focuses on a specific type of protein
Okay.
found in most conventional milk, A1 casein.
Okay.
It contains a protein fragment called BCM7, and that's been linked to gut inflammation and a whole range of digestive issues.
Nah. So it's not just about lactose intolerance then?
It seems like a lot of what people attribute to lactose intolerance might actually be a reaction to BCM7.
That's fascinating. So what's the solution? Ditch dairy altogether?
Not necessarily. You can look for A2 milk. It comes from cows that produce a different type of casein. Studies suggest it's much less inflammatory than A1 milk.
Okay, so choosing the right type of dairy makes a difference. I'm starting to notice the theme here. It's not just about avoiding things entirely, it's about being informed, making smarter choices.
Exactly. And there are a few more key habits we need to discuss that can really move the needle when it comes to inflammation.
All right, let's hear them. What else should we be focusing on?
We were just talking about making smarter choices, right? And that leads us to another one. How much you're moving throughout the day. Are you getting enough NEAT?
Neat. Is that like some new fitness tracker I haven't heard of?
Not quite. It stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Okay.
Basically, it's all the movement you do outside of your regular workouts.
Okay.
Think walking, taking the stairs, fidgeting, even doing chores around the house.
Oh, okay. So all those like little movements actually add up.
Absolutely. NEAT plays a big role in calorie burning,
Right.
and it can help offset the negative effects of sitting for long periods.
Right.
And remember those inflammatory chemicals released by visceral fat?
Yeah.
NEAT helps reduce those.
I'm starting to see how all these habits are like in or connected.
Yeah.
If we're not moving enough, we're more likely to have more visceral fat,
Right.
which means more inflammation.
Precisely. And when you add in those other inflammatory habits we've been talking about, like, consuming those oxidized oils, the emulsifiers,
Yeah.
it creates a perfect storm for chronic inflammation.
Okay. I'm getting up to walk around right now.
Yeah.
What else should we be aware of?
Okay. This next one is a bit counterintuitive. Are you constantly snacking?
I plead guilty. I'm a grazer by nature.
Hmm.
What's wrong with that?
The process of digestion itself actually creates a degree of inflammation.
Wait. Eating causes inflammation.
Well, it's a natural part of the process. When you eat, your body releases certain chemicals and enzymes to, break down food, and this triggers a temporary inflammatory response.
Okay, that makes sense. But why is snacking so bad then?
Well, if you're constantly snacking, your body never gets a break
Hmm?
from that inflammatory process. It's like, constantly poking a wound.
Right.
It never has a chance to fully heal.
So it's not just what we're eating, it's when and how often.
Exactly. Creating clear eating windows with at least 3 to 4 hour breaks between meals
Okay.
allows your digestive system to rest and, reduces overall inflammation.
So no more mindless munching throughout the day. All right. Any other surprising inflammatory habits we should be aware of?
This last one is a relatively new area of research. Turns out even something as simple as dishwasher residue could be contributing to gut inflammation.
Dishwasher residue. Really? I'm intrigued.
The concern is, those convenient dishwasher detergent pods.
Yeah.
They often contain emulsifiers and other chemicals that can disrupt our gut microbiome even after the dishes have been washed.
So even though we're not ingesting the detergent directly, the residue can still cause problems.
That's what the research is suggesting, yeah. It's a similar concept to what we talked about with emulsifiers in processed foods,
Right.
just on a smaller scale.
That is wild. So what's the solution? Hand wash everything.
Not necessarily. The simple rinse before using your dishes should be enough to remove any lingering residue.
Okay, I could definitely add a quick rinse to my routine.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all these habits that, contribute to inflammation,
Mhm.
but what about those of us who are already struggling with pain and inflammation? What are our options?
Well, you sent over some interesting research about NSAIDs,
Yeah.
those common over-the-counter pain relievers.
Right, right.
What are your thoughts on those?
I take them occasionally, for headaches or muscle soreness. Are you saying they could be problematic?
While NSAIDs can be helpful for short-term pain relief, long-term use can actually damage the lining of your gut,
Really?
leading to, more inflammation down the line.
Oh, wow. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle. You take them to reduce inflammation, but they could end up causing more.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of, addressing the root causes of inflammation rather than just masking the symptoms.
Okay. So NSAIDs are a no-go for long-term use. What about other strategies for managing inflammation?
Well, we've already discussed a lot of lifestyle changes that can make a big difference.
Right.
Choosing the right foods, moving your body more, minimizing stress, getting enough sunlight. It's about making those choices, a consistent part of your life.
It's hard not to notice a pattern as we've been talking about all these habits.
Yeah.
It seems like the food and pharmaceutical industries are actually profiting from our bad habits.
That's a really astute observation. Think about it. Processed foods, loaded with inflammatory ingredients.
Right.
They're often cheaper and more readily available than whole, unprocessed foods.
Yeah.
And then when those inflammatory habits catch up with us, who's there to offer a solution?
The pharmaceutical companies with their NSAIDs and other medications.
Precisely. It's a system that often, prioritizes profit over prevention, but we don't have to be passive participants in this cycle. We can take control of our health.
So what's the first step? Where do we even begin to, break free from all this?
It starts with awareness, like we've been doing today. Once you understand the problem, you can start making informed choices.
With all this talk about inflammation, I'm suddenly feeling very aware of everything I'm doing and eating.
That's a good thing. It means you're paying attention. Now, the key is to turn that awareness into action. Small changes can have a big impact over time.
Okay, so what are some practical things our listeners can do, like starting today, to, reduce inflammation?
Let's start with the kitchen.
Okay. What should we be stocking up on?
Think whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible.
No.
Fruits, vegetables, healthy fats, and high-quality protein sources.
So ditching the processed foods and sugary drinks.
Exactly. And remember our conversation about oils.
Yeah.
Make sure you're using, those stable oils like tallow, butter, avocado oil, coconut oil.
Got it. What about dairy? Should we avoid it altogether?
If you're concerned about inflammation, look for A2 milk or explore non-dairy alternatives like almond milk or coconut milk.
Okay. So we've cleaned up our diet.
Mm-hmm.
What about movement? What kind of exercise is best for reducing inflammation?
High-intensity interval training, or HIIT,
Okay.
is particularly effective at targeting that visceral fat we talked about. It involves short bursts of intense exercise, followed by brief recovery periods.
So we're not just talking about going for a leisurely walk. We need to push ourselves.
Yes, getting your heart rate up, challenging your body, that's key. But don't worry, even a few minutes of HIIT a few times a week can make a big difference.
Okay. And what about all that NEAT we were talking about? How do we incorporate more of that into our, daily lives?
It's about finding little ways to move more throughout the day. Take the stairs instead of the elevator, park farther away from your destination,
Hmm.
walk around while you're on the phone,
Yeah.
get a standing desk.
Okay, so simple changes can really add up. What about managing stress?
Yeah,
We talked about how chronic stress can be a major contributor to inflammation.
absolutely. Finding healthy coping mechanisms is crucial. Things like meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, or pursuing hobbies that you enjoy.
It's about finding what works for you and making time for it.
Yeah, exactly. Prioritizing your well-being is, one of the best investments you can make.
I love that. We've covered so much ground today. But there's one more area I'd like to touch on before we wrap up. The power of sunlight.
Yes. Talk about that.
We mentioned earlier how artificial blue light can be, harmful.
Right.
But what are the specific benefits of sunlight when it comes to inflammation?
Sunlight helps regulate our circadian rhythm,
Yeah.
which is essentially our internal clock that governs our sleep-wake cycle.
Hmm.
And when our circadian rhythm is in sync, it helps reduce inflammation.
So getting enough sunlight helps us sleep better, which in turn reduces inflammation.
That's one of the key benefits, yeah.
What else does sunlight do for us?
Sunlight is also crucial for vitamin D production. And vitamin D plays a role in, regulating the immune system
Right.
and has anti-inflammatory properties.
So a vitamin D deficiency could contribute to inflammation.
That's right. And unfortunately, a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D, especially, during the winter months.
So getting outside and soaking up some sun is a good thing.
Absolutely. Even 15, 20 minutes of sun exposure on your skin each day can make a big difference.
Uh,
And if you live in a climate where sunlight is limited, you might want to consider talking to your doctor about a vitamin D supplement.
okay. I'm feeling inspired to ditch the screens and get some fresh air. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive?
We've discussed a lot of practical tips and strategies today, but the most important takeaway, you have the power to take control of your health.
That's a great message to end on.
Yeah.
It's empowering to know that we're not at the mercy of, our genes or the food and pharmaceutical industries.
Exactly. By making informed choices and prioritizing our well-being, we can reduce inflammation and improve our, overall health.
Well said. And I have to say, I'm feeling much less intimidated by this whole inflammation thing now.
I'm glad to hear that. It's about progress, not perfection. Just take it, one step at a time.
Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Well, I'd say start by, becoming aware of the biggest stressors in your life.
Oh, that's a great point. We talked about how chronic stress can fuel inflammation,
Right.
but we didn't really get into how to manage it.
Yeah, and it's highly individual,
Yeah.
What stresses one person out might be totally different for someone else.
Right.
So it's about identifying those stressors and then finding healthy ways to cope.
Right. So things like meditation, spending time in nature, exercise, even just taking a few deep breaths.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and then, incorporating those stress-reducing activities into your routine, your daily routine.
It's like adding those tools to your inflammation fighting toolkit.
You got it. And remember, even small changes, they can make a big difference. Don't underestimate the power of those, simple everyday choices.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for guiding us through this deep dive. Your insights have been incredibly helpful.
It's been my pleasure. Always enjoy these conversations.
And to our listener, thank you for sending in all your research and trusting us to help you unpack it. We hope this deep dive has been both informative and inspiring.
We've just scratched the surface of inflammation today, We'll,
Yeah.
we'll definitely be revisiting this topic in future deep dives.
We will be exploring specific areas like gut health, sleep, stress management, and much more. So stay tuned for those.
And remember, if you have a stack of research on a topic you're just dying to understand, send it our way. We love helping our listeners make sense of the information overload out there.
Until next time, stay curious and keep those inflammatory habits in check.